beginning with God's name, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer, the complete and perfect praises for God, our Lord, people sustainer, evolver of all the systems of knowledge. To our MC, Mr. Steve Kenny, to Dr. Ashlyn, and of course to our keynote speaker, Sister Laila Muhammad, to all of the members of this distinguished audience, our law enforcement, and to all of the members of the Ismat movement. Our greeting is peace. We say God's peace be on you. In Arabic, it's Assalamu alaikum. I have a distinct honor and pleasure this evening of introducing our keynote speaker. And when I was asked to do this, I was somewhat surprised. And then I realized possibly the reason why I have this honor is because Sister Laila and I have a common history. And I'm going to be brief, but I do want to say to you, and I think it's worth your researching and investigating. You'll hear when I read the bio that Sister Laila Muhammad is 6th generation of Muslims in America. But I want you to know that she comes from a very powerful legacy. And we believe part of a divine movement that helped establish Islam in this country. And that is significant because the way it was established through her father, my Imam Waraquddin Muhammad, was one that did not have the people fearing us as Muslims. When September 11, 2001 happened, they already knew this Muslim community. And they knew that we were patriotic. And they knew that we served in the armed forces. And they knew that we were involved in various things, interfaith dialogue and mutual respect of the various faiths. So I want you to know that the one that's going to come before you comes from a very rich and deep past, a great legacy. Also, I had the opportunity to travel with our sister in 2002. You might have heard it in the bio, where we spent approximately 2 weeks together in Rome, Italy. And we traveled all around Rome, and we got a chance to get to know one another. And one of the things that I got a chance to know is about her compassion, about her commitment to the upliftment of the entire human family, not just the Muslim community, but the entire human family. And she continues that work. My Imam and her father passed in 2008, but she has never missed a beat. She continues to work in the path of uplifting humanity and social justice. That being said, Sister Laila Muhammad is a 6th generation of African American Muslims, also known as Bilalian. She is an educator and community advocate born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, raised in Chicago, Illinois, and now living in Rochelle, New Jersey. She graduated from the University of Islam School, now known as the Sister Clara Muhammad School System. Currently, Laila works with a team of educators on curriculum and policy for that 85-year-old private education system. Laila holds a degree in child development and is now working towards a Master of Divinity, Islamic chaplaincy at the Claremont School of Theology. As she continues in the footsteps of her parents and grandparents, she, as an independent consultant, works to build healthy community life for the betterment of humanity through individual life coach training and NGO collaborations. From the age of 15, she has traveled the world, falling in love with the diversity of the human family. Her international and national travels are a major part of her interfaith efforts. In 2008, she organized the program, A Shared Memory, for the purpose of bringing diverse people together into the shared freedom space to the shared past, present, and future, collective and individual life experience. She has published 2 books of poetry, Sharing and The Life is a Cup to be Filled. In the upcoming years, she plans to continue to get to know the human family by working, traveling, and living this uniquely diverse global community. As Laila works in the community, she looks forward to experiencing mutual growth through active engagement. The goal is to reach the human potential and to collectively serve. Everyone has the inherent right to equal opportunity to be their best selves. Laila aspires to empower and advocate for individuals and communities in need of assistance for reaching their best. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, please join me in giving a Texas welcome to our sister, Laila.
God's name, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer. Peace be unto everyone. Assalamu alaikum. So, my brother, I was so happy when I heard that he would be introducing me, and I'm just very humble. I'm just a regular girl from Chicago, and then when I hear. I mean, it's very, I'm kind of taken aback, but I'm going to be okay. But thank you to Austin. I've never been here, and I have been welcomed by everyone, the sisters, the Dialogue Institute, and then everyone here has been so gracious, and it's just the spirit. I feel a really good spirit, and I look forward to, God willing, many more times to come here. So, I'm going to begin with a poem. And as our brother spoke, he talked about my family. As I said a few minutes ago, I'm a simple girl from Chicago, the south side of Chicago, with President Obama and Michelle Obama. But I have come to realize now that I am all grown up, a mother and a grandmother, and I realize that I've been blessed and given a great responsibility because I do come from what I like to say is a historical family. And it begins with my grandparents. And what many people don't know is that it began with my grandmother, Clara Muhammad. So I wrote this poem for her. And I have the wrong poem. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I need somebody to pull up my website for me, please. I don't believe I did that. I have the wrong poem. Man, I wonder if I did that. I don't want to waste time. Okay, so I'll just tell you. I'm not going to be able to read the poem, but the reason I wanted to read the poem is because I wanted to tell you about Clara Muhammad. So most people know Elijah Muhammad, right? And there are many adjectives to describe that little short man with a third grade education. But one key point is this, is that before he began to speak in the United States of America, no matter what he was saying, no matter what your opinion of what he was saying, Islam became known. And people that were practicing became more comfortable with being Muslim in the open. And which is a good thing because none of us would be doing this probably if Allah hadn't used him in that way. But what people don't know is that his wife Clara, she is the one that introduced him to Islam. It was in the 1930s during the Depression, and they were suffering, they were poor. My grandfather had no work, they had children, they had come to the north from the south for a better life, as a lot of African Americans did. And one of her girlfriends told her, Clara, you have to come hear this man. He's talking a lot of good talk, and he's saying that we black people are empowered and that we're strong and that we're godly people, that we're, that we're the original man, I would say that. So, original people. So my grandmother went. She went to hear this teaching, and his name was W.D. Farad. But what I like about it as a woman is that then she came back and she told her husband, and husbands, you listen. And she said, we have to go hear this man. And so they went together on the second time. And after that, the story goes in my family from my aunts and uncles and my dad that my grandfather came home and he told his wife, now they were very, very poor, eating spoiled food. I mean, it's very heartbreaking stories that I've heard. But he said this to her. He said, go in the refrigerator and throw out all the pork. We're Muslims. And turned his life around. And then he began to do that for others. I have met women and men that used to be prostitutes and pimps that are now 80 plus years old, 70 years old, and they've been Muslims for 60, 70 years. They stopped doing drugs, they stopped prostituting, they stopped stealing, they went to work. And we know the famous story of our dear brother Malcolm. So this is the legacy that I come from. That is social service. In my opinion, my grandparents were the pioneers of social service and social advocacy and community advocacy. So I say that it's in my genes to do this work because it doesn't feel like work when I feed the homeless or when we have an iftar and we have a line down the street and nobody's a Muslim in the line. It feels natural. And so that's why I wanted to read the point about my grandmother. In essence, I write poetry, but I don't remember my poetry. So in essence, the poem says that she was a rose, and that when it came time for her to rise to the occasion, she did that. I picked the title She Was a Rose because at the schools that was named after her, Clara Muhammad schools, and that's another story that she initiated those schools. She didn't want her children back in the 30s again, and she didn't want them to go to the public school system. She felt they did not be educated properly. So she kept them home. The police came to her house, the story goes, and told her that she would be arrested and locked up. And she told the police, I would die as dead as a doorknob, but you're not going to take my children. Now, she was a law-abiding woman, but she stood her ground for what she believed. And there were some repercussions. Some of the sisters that joined her, their children were put into foster homes. But the main thing that happened is that 80 plus years now, I'm a graduate of that school. And those schools are accredited. And we will have then gone from our school, our private school system, into universities. So she stood her grounds and developed a school system. So we'll come back to that. So I'm speaking of my grandmother and why I chose the title of Rose for her. At the graduation, she would give out roses to all the children. And recently, we all know the story in the news about Me Too. And the one woman, her first name is Rose, and she's the one that brought everything out about the Hollywood producer. So I started thinking about it because as I kept hearing these stories, I thought about empowerment for women. And I thought about how courageous my grandmother must have been back in the 30s to stand up the way she did. And how courageous she was in the late 40s when her husband was being threatened with his life. And he had to stay underground, and she kept the community afloat. She was the leader. So I thought about this powerful woman and connected it to the rose. And I said, this is what the point of it about this. It's called the rose. And as it ends that we are her roses, and we will rise as she rose. So that's what I wanted to begin with. And the reason for that, how does that relate to the topic? It relates to the topic, in my opinion. What should the faith community do in reference to reconciling the problem, the struggle of racism or differences. And I think this simply comes in a space of nurturing. Everything that we heard that the Dialogue Institute does, it has a spirit of nature, of nurturing. And this is what a mother is. Even if you don't have a child, it is in you to be a nurturer. And mothers try to hold on to it, but it is also in every man. Men are nurturers. Oh, yes. I will step out here, brother. I'm going to step out now. Our prophet, Muhammad Ibn Abdullah, praise and peace be upon him, he said that at the foot of the mother lies in paradise. And we women, we try to claim that. I don't think that he was only speaking of women. I think he was speaking of every human being that has that nurturing spirit. Because I've seen too many fathers that I think paradise lies at their feet. And this is how I move throughout my work in the faith community and social service, is that I come as a mother and I come as a sister. I'm the oldest of 8 children, and I feel naturally that capacity. If I see someone on the street and they need something, I try my best to help them. And if I can't help them, then I find somebody else. It has become a blessing for me because it's an easy flow. It's natural for me. And this is what I think that we as faith communities have to do. We have to not make it so hard. We have to trust, because we are faith communities, and that's what faith is. It's trusting, it's believing. So we have to trust and believe that even if we just drop a little rock in the water, we have to know that it's going to ripple. We can't become disheartened and think that, oh, our country is so divided, all these horrible things are happening in the world. No, we have to have faith. And then with that, we have to nurture. And it comes easy. I shared earlier with one of the ladies here that when it was the election, and I saw that how the outcome was going to be. I said, well, I'll just go to sleep. I prayed, but the prayer was not a prayer of fear. It was a prayer that I know God is in control. And when things happen, even though it may seem dark and gloomy, and I think someone earlier said at the dark time in the world, the country now, every last one of us, every human being on this earth came from darkness. The womb is dark. Light only comes through the dark. And I think that we are at a point in America where the truth is out. Everything is in the open. And so now we, and I think it's many we, it is not just the Dialogue Institute or other organizations. It's a whole lot of good people. And now we can see what we have to tackle. I can say, okay, well, I can take care of that over there. I can take care of that over there. So this is a good time. This is a time of birth. And I feel very positive about our country. And I feel very positive about our world because these times have forced us to connect and to come together. And that's what I've been doing with Compassion Action Foundation in New Jersey. Our dear brother, that's the president, he's a part of the Hisman community. And I'd heard about the Imam Gulen many years ago. It was before 2008 because my father was still alive. One of my friends went to Turkey and she came back very excited. And she's a very avid reader. And so she says, Imam Gulen, you have to read about him. What he's doing in Turkey and what his people are doing. It's just like Imam Muhammad. And so I was like, really? So she began to tell me, and it is. The brother, the Fountain magazine, he interviewed me, and I told him that now that I've worked with the Hismet community, we do things so much the same. But when I see that it's not really a special thing to Imam Gula or Imam Muhammad. It's that they are followers of Prophet Muhammad, and that they are living, as our brother said in the video, they are living the word of the Quran, as many people are. I will share with you another group that I've had the blessing of doing interfaith work with, the Folklore, a Catholic group. Their leader's name is Kiara Luker. She's passed away. And I remember when I first started learning about Kiara and her work, one of the things that struck me is that she said at 15 years old, she decided to live the words. And she just took one sentence, feeding the neighbor, and she simply started giving bread to people. And that's what we have to do. Just make it easy on ourselves. Take one thing from our holy scriptures, or one thing from our mother or father, something that they said of good, or one thing from a teacher. But take one good thing and live it. Walk it. And that's what I think that this community here at the Dialogue Institute has been doing. And will it erase racism? Of course not. You know, it's going to be here. We are human beings, and we'll always have differences, but we will be doing as God said, and not despise each other, but get to know each other. And then once you get to know each other, you begin to work together. I'm going to share with you one last thing, and then I do have another point that I do have to write on. I met a sister in the Hismet community in Atlanta, and she, I will never forget her. Her name is Hafsa. I believe I'm pronouncing it correctly. Anyway, she began to share with me how she came to America. And she said that she had taken her daughter and some other girls to Disney World in Florida. And that evening, she said her phone, and I'm going to speak like her because she was really using the American language. She said, my phone started blowing up. And she said, well, she ignored it because they were busy, they were having fun, she ignored it. Well, they went to sleep. The next morning, it was just outrageous how many emails she had. And she found out that the university that she worked at had been closed, that her degree was no longer any good, that her passport was no longer any good. Now she's in America with her 16-year-old daughter, but her husband and her baby are still in Turkey. So she calls her husband, or he called her, and he told her, you know, yes, everything was all true. And he was very upset because he knew that the baby didn't have a passport. And she said with her fiery self, she said, do you remember when you told me just to wait a little while because we didn't have the money for the passport? She said, I didn't wait. She has a passport. It was hilarious. And so they're in America now, they're in Atlanta, but they're struggling, you know, because of, as we know, they don't have anything. Everything, her home, her house, everything, her degree, it's all in her, being held hostage. But she's still surviving, and she's surviving and thriving. Not just surviving, she's thriving in her work. I'm going to be with her this month, Women's History Month. We're going to be together at the UN for Women's History. So she's working, even though everything is left there. Family members, friends in prison. So I have been getting to know the sisters that are struggling like this around the country. And I have been sharing with them the struggle of our people, African American people, and the triumph of women like Clara Muhammad, Harriet Tubman, Madam C.J. Walker, Sojourner Truth, Dr. Constance Chavez, and our sister, her mother. The next time you have to invite Sister Amina. She is the beautiful Quranic recitation, beautiful. So if we share how we could come from the shackles. Anybody who seen 12 Years of Slavery, you know what could happen. Or any of those, or read anything. We can come through that. And many other communities have come through things and still are suffering. But it helps when you have a hand that empathizes, not that knows, because I don't know your struggle. I'm not trying to say I do, but I know pain. So I can empathize with you. And this is what we have been doing through Compassion Action Foundation, traveling the country, connecting African American Muslims with our Turkish sisters, and having a bond, learning from each other, sharing our cultures, and loving each other. And then from those relationships, working together, collectively, being introduced to our friends that are not Muslim, and just making this family grow and grow and become more able, collectively, to change things when it comes to oppression, when it comes to poverty, when it comes to discrimination. And with that, I'm going to read the last poem, the poem that I do have. And it's called American Spice. And it's all about us, everybody in this room. Peppers, potatoes, tomatoes, greens, carrots, lentils, beans, corn, and peas in a big pot, melting away. The beauty disappears as it blends. Individual uniqueness cannot be found. Turn down the heat, please. Turn the heat down. Then again, just turn the heat off. Take peppers of all kinds, hot and sweet, potatoes, sweet, red, white, purple, and gold, tomatoes, steak and cherry, collard greens, kale, arugula, and Swiss chard, baby carrots for a little crunch, and lentils, black navy, pinto, and garbanzo beans, tri-colored corn, and baby June peas. Now, don't put them in a pot, and definitely no heat. Make them clean, cool, and crisp. Put them in a big glass bowl to be seen. Let the beauty and uniqueness be seen from every angle. Then, sprinkle some constitutional American spice. And oh yeah, what a great lot. This is us. Spicy, diverse, constitutional, God-fearing people of faith. Thank you so very much.